6. Bach didn't have time or inclination to remark on his romance when he saw Crope and Tibbet. The rhino librarian, having paid scant attention to the boys or their progress all summer, had suddenly cottoned on to how little had been achieved and was all rheumatic, huffs and watchful eyes. The boys chattered little. They brushed and cleaned vellum and rubbed finfoot oil on leather bindings and polished brass clasps. Only a few days left of his tedium. One afternoon, Bach let his eye drift down the codex he was handling. Usually he worked without attention to the subject matter of the materials, but his eye was drawn to the bright red paint applied in the illustration. It was a picture, maybe 400 or 500 years old, of a Cumbric witch. Some monk's visionary zeal or anxiety about magic had inspired his brush. The witch soon stood on an isthmus connecting two rocky lands, and on either side of her stretched patches of cerulean blue sea, with white-lipped waves of astonishing vigor and particularity. The witch held in her hands a beast of unrecognizable species, though it was clearly drowned or nearly drowned. She cradled it in an arm bag without attention to actual skeletal flexibility, lovingly encircled the beast's wet, spiky furred back. With her other hand, she was freeing a breast from her robe, offering suck to the creature. Her expression was hard to read, or had the monk's hand smudged, or age and grime bestowed a sfumato sympathy. She was nearly motherly, with miserable child. Her look was inward, or sad, or something, but her feet didn't match her expression, for they were planted on the narrow strand with prehensile grip, apparent even through the silver-colored shoes, whose corner of the round brilliance had first caught Bach's eye. Furthermore, the feet were turned out at 90-degree angles to the shins. They showed in profile as mirror images, heels clicked together and toes pointing in opposite directions, like a stance in ballet. The gown was a hazy dawn blue. He guessed by the jeweled tones of the work that the document hadn't been opened in centuries. Dramatically, or theologically, this image seemed some sort of a hybrid of the creation myths of the animals. Here was the flood waters, whether they derived from legends of Lurline or the unnamed god, whether they were rising or sinking, with the Cumbric witch interfering with or accomplishing the ordained fate of the beast. Though in a script too crabbed and archaic for Bach to decipher, perhaps this document supported the fable of a Cumbric witch spell that gave the animals the gift of speech, memory, and remorse. Perhaps it merely refuted it, but glowingly. Any way you looked at it, there was this syncretism of myth's happy appetite to engorge a narrative strange. Maybe this painting was the suggestion of some alarmed monk that the animals received their strength through yet another sort of baptism, by nursing at the teat of the Cumbric witch, inducted through the milk of the witch. Such analysis wasn't a strong point. He had a hard enough time with the nutrients and common pests of barley. He should do the unthinkable and deliver this actual scroll to Dr. Dilliman. It would be valuable to know about. Or maybe, he thought as he hurried to meet Elphaba, the thing safely smugged into the deep pocket of his cape and out of the Three Queens library. Maybe the witch wasn't feeding the drenched animal, but killing it, sacrificing it to save the floods? Art was way beyond him. He had run into Alma Kush in the bazaar and begged her to deliver a note to Elphaba. The good woman seemed more sympathetic than usual to him. Was Galinda singing his praises in the privacy of her room? It was his first time to see the funny green jumping bean since arriving back in Shiz. And there she was, on time, arriving at the cafe as requested, in the great ghost of a dress, with a knitted overpull fraying at the sleeves, and a man's umbrella, big and black and lance-like when rolled up. Elphaba sat down with a graceless frump and examined the scroll. She looked at it more closely than she would bring herself to look at Bach, but she listened to his exegesis and thought it feeble. What prevents this from being the fairy queen Lurline? She asked. Well, the accoutrements of glamour are missing. I mean, the golden nimbus of hair, the elegance, the transparent wings, the wand. Those silver shoes are pretty gaudy. She munched on a dry biscuit. It doesn't look like a portrait of determination or, what do I mean, Genesis. It looks reactive rather than proactive. That figure is at the very least confused, don't you think? You've been hanging around Crope and Tippet too long. Go back to your barley, she said, pocketing the thing. You're getting vague and artsy. But I'll give it to Dr. Gillikin. I'll tell you, he keeps making breakthroughs. This business of opposing lenses has opened up a whole new world of corpuscular architecture. He let me look once, but I couldn't make out much except for stress and bias, color and pulse. He's very excited. The problem I see now is getting him to stop. I think he's on the verge of founding a whole new branch of knowledge, and every day's findings provoke 100 new questions. Clinical, theoretical, hypothetical, empirical, even ontological, I guess. He's been staying up late at night in the labs. We can see his lights when we pull the drapes at night. Well, does he need anything more from us? I only have 2 days left in that library, and then school starts. I can't get him to focus. I think he's just putting together what he's got. How about Galinda then, he said, if we're done with academic espionage for the time being. How is she? Does she ask for me? Elphaba allowed herself to look at Bach. No, Galinda really hasn't said anything about you. To give you hope you don't deserve, I should add, she's hardly said anything to me at all either. She's in a heavy sulk. When will I see her again? Does it mean that much to you? She smiled wanly. Bach, does she really mean that much to you? She is my world, he answered. Your world is too small if she is it. You can't criticize the size of a world. I can't help it, and I can't stop it, and I can't deny it. I should say you look silly, she said, draining the last drops of lukewarm tea from her cup. I should say you look back on this summer and cringe. She may be lovely, Bach. No, she is lovely, I agree, but you're worth a dozen of her. At his shocked expression, she threw up her hands. Not to me. I don't mean me. Please, that stricken look. Spare me. But I wasn't sure if he believed her. She gathered her things in a hurry and rushed out, knocking the spittoon over in a clatter, slicing her big umbrella right through someone's newspaper. She didn't look both ways as she lunged across Railway Square and was nearly mowed down by an old ox on a cumbersome tricycle.